I never told my boyfriend that I make $70,000 a month. He just saw me living simply and I let him. So when he invited me to have dinner with his parents, I decided to do a little experiment. I wanted to see how they would treat a woman they thought was poor and naive. But as soon as I walked through that door, have you ever hidden a part of yourself to see how someone would really act? Let me know your story down in the comments. My name is Kelsey, and I'm 30. On paper, I'm the founder and CEO of Pinpoint Dynamics, a data analytics firm I built from nothing. My company moves millions of dollars in venture capital and handles data for Fortune 500 companies. In reality, I live in a tiny one-bedroom apartment in Somerville. I wear secondhand clothes, and I take the T to work every morning. I make over $70,000 a month, and I hide every penny of it. This isn't a game. It's a defense mechanism. My last serious relationship ended 3 years ago. I was just Kelsey, then a mid-level analyst with a successful side project. He was charming, supportive, and saw my potential. He encouraged me to go all in on my company. He helped me brainstorm, cheered my successes, and held me when I failed. And when I finally landed my first major investor, he drained my accounts. He took everything: my savings, my seed money, my trust. I learned a brutal lesson that day. For some people, success isn't something to celebrate with you. It's something to take from you. Wealth became this invisible chain. It's not a safety net, it's a target. It's a bright, flashing light that attracts a specific kind of person. The kind of person who sees your bank account before they see you. The kind of person who doesn't love you but loves what you can do for them. After that, I rebuilt my company. But I rebuilt my life differently. I put up walls. I kept my two worlds completely separate. There was Kelsey, the CEO, who handled acquisitions and quarterly projections, and there was just Kelsey, the woman who liked cheap beer and old bookstores. Living simply wasn't a choice anymore. It was a necessity. It was the only way I could be sure that if someone showed interest in me, they were interested in the person, not the price tag. It was the only way I could feel safe. So when I met Tyler, I desperately wanted it to be real. I needed it to be real. I met Tyler at a small gallery in the South End. It was a rainy Tuesday and the place was empty except for us. I was just there to get out of the cold, looking at a series of abstract photographs. He was the curator. He didn't ask me what I did for a living. He didn't ask where I lived. He just saw me lingering on one photo and said, "That one's my favorite. It feels like quiet." We talked for 2 hours about art, about the city, about the way the rain looked on the cobblestone streets. He was passionate and kind, with a gentle energy that felt safe. But Tyler is a Hamilton. His family isn't just wealthy, they're old money Boston. They live in a historic townhouse on Beacon Hill, a place where pedigree isn't just a word, it's the entire operating system. His father, Gregory, is a legend in investment banking. His mother, Patricia, chairs 3 different philanthropic boards. They are the kind of people who don't just have money, they are their money. It's in their bones, their blood, their name. And Tyler is their golden son. When he nervously invited me to dinner, I saw the terror in his eyes. My parents are a lot. He warned, his hand shaking just a little as he held his coffee. They're very traditional. They care about appearances. I saw the weight on his shoulders. This is the part people don't understand about families like his. They talk about the golden child, the one who gets all the praise, the one who can do no wrong. But it's a prison. It's a prison built of conditional love. When you're the golden child, you learn from birth that you are loved for what you do, not for who you are. You are loved for the good grades, the right college, the perfect career, and most importantly, the suitable partner. Love isn't a gift, it's a performance review. So Tyler wasn't just anxious about me meeting his parents. He was terrified of failing his review. His anxiety wasn't a weakness. It was a conditioned response to a lifetime of knowing that one wrong move, one unsuitable girlfriend, could mean the withdrawal of the only love he's ever known. He was trapped. I looked at this kind, passionate man, and I saw the little boy inside him still desperate for approval. "It's just dinner, Tyler," I said, putting my hand over his. "It'll be fine." But as I said it, I knew it was a lie. And I knew my experiment wasn't just about his parents anymore. It was about him. I wanted to see if the man I was falling for could ever break free from the prison they built for him. The Hamilton townhouse was exactly as I'd imagined. It wasn't just a house. It was a fortress of old money, a 3-story brick facade on Beacon Hill that seemed to loom over the narrow, gaslit street. It was beautiful, but in the way a museum is beautiful, cold, silent, and suffocating. Every window was perfectly lit. You could feel the history and the judgment seeping out of the walls. Tyler's hand was clammy as he fumbled with his keys. "You ready?" he whispered. "I'll be fine, Tyler," I said, trying to reassure him, though I felt the oppressive weight of the place settle on me instantly. The door opened, and Patricia Hamilton stood there. She was exactly as Tyler had described, elegant, sharp, her silver blonde hair pulled into a perfect chignon. She wore a silk blouse that probably cost more than my rent. Her smile was a masterpiece of social engineering. It was perfectly formed, bright, and reached absolutely nowhere near her eyes. "You must be Kelsey," she said, her voice like chimes. Her eyes didn't meet mine. They did a rapid professional scan, starting at my secondhand dress and ending pointedly at my simple flat shoes. "Tyler, darling, you didn't tell us she was so brave." I smiled. "It's just a dress, Mrs. Hamilton. It's comfortable." "Of course, dear," she said, already turning away. "Gregory, she's here." Gregory Hamilton emerged from a room that looked like a library, dark wood, and the smell of old books. He was tall, imposing, and sized me up with the casual appraisal of a man buying livestock. "Kelsey," he said, shaking my hand briefly. His grip was firm. "Hamilton, good of you to come." He didn't ask how I was. He asked, "And you're from?" "Which family?" "The Millers, sir." "From Worcester." "My father was a mechanic." "Ah," Gregory said. The single syllable was a dismissal. He turned to his son. "Tyler, your mother has outdone herself. Let's not keep dinner waiting." The dining room was suffocating. A long, polished mahogany table reflected the light of a crystal chandelier. Ancestral portraits stared down at us from the walls, their eyes seeming to follow me. Tyler sat me between himself and his mother. He was trying so hard, unfolding my napkin for me, his movements jerky and nervous. The interrogation began over the first course, a tiny, perfect salad. Tyler mentioned, "You have a little computer job?" Patricia asked, slicing into a pear. "I work in data analytics," I said simply. "How fascinating," she replied, her tone implying it was the least fascinating thing in the world. "Gregory's bank is always looking for analysts. It's a very stable career for those who are good with numbers." Gregory chimed in, ignoring my job entirely. "Your background, Kelsey?" "Worcester." "You said, do your people still live there?" "My parents passed away," I said. It was an easy, clean lie I used when the truth that I had no family to speak of was too complicated. "Oh," Patricia said, a flicker of something, maybe pity, maybe satisfaction, crossing her face. "A shame. Family is everything. It's our foundation. Wouldn't you agree, Tyler?" Tyler, who had been pushing his salad around his plate, startled. "Yes, of course, Mother." "Which brings us to your foundation," Tyler, Gregory said, leveling a look at his son. "We were discussing the vice president opening at the bank. It's time you took your responsibilities seriously." "Father, I'm happy at the gallery." "The gallery is a hobby," Gregory cut in his voice, still quiet but turning to steel. "The bank is your legacy. It's what our family does. You're 32. It's time to build a life, not just play in one." Patricia placed her hand on Tyler's arm, her rings clicking softly against the china. "Your father is right, darling. It's about legacy. It's about the future. That's why a suitable partner is so critical at this stage." She turned her bright, cold smile on me. "Someone who understands the demands of your position. Someone who shares your background, your context." She was talking about me, but not to me. I was a problem to be solved, an unsuitable variable in their equation. I watched Tyler, and I saw him do exactly what I knew he would do. He shrank. The passionate, vibrant man I knew from the gallery vanished. In his place sat the golden sun. His shoulders hunched, his eyes fixed on his plate. He said nothing. He just gripped his water glass, his knuckles white, and disappeared. The trap, I realized, wasn't just for me. It was for him, too. And he'd been in it his whole life. The main course was cleared away, leaving only the pristine white tablecloth and the heavy ancestral silver. The conversation had died. Tyler was staring at his empty wine glass as if it held the answers to the universe. Patricia placed her hands on the table, her fingers perfectly aligned. She leaned forward, her voice dropping into a tone of intimate surgical concern. "Kelsey, dear," she began. The air in the room went still. This was it. The ambush. "We've so enjoyed having you," she continued, her smile, a painted-on mask of benevolence. "You're a very sweet girl." I felt Tyler flinch beside me, a tiny, imperceptible movement. "But we need to be honest," Patricia said, her gaze flicking to Gregory, who nodded once, a silent co-signature. "This family, our world, it comes with certain, let's say, expectations, a legacy. And we've been worried that Tyler, well, that he isn't seeing the full picture." She looked at me, her eyes like polished stones. "You're a lovely person, Kelsey, but you're simply not the right fit." There it was. Not a microaggression, but a direct hit. I didn't respond, I just waited. My silence seemed to unnerve her more than an argument would have. "What my wife is trying to say," Gregory cut in, his voice gruff, "is that Tyler has responsibilities. His partner needs to be an asset to the Hamilton name, not a project." "Oh, Gregory, don't be so harsh," Patricia said, though her eyes were cold. She turned back to me, her voice softening into a grotesque parody of kindness. "What Gregory means, Kelsey, is that we want to help you." I felt my blood run cold. "Help me?" "Yes, dear. It's clear you're a bright woman, but you haven't had the advantages, the guidance. We want to offer you that." She took a sip of water. "I have a position opening at the foundation. A junior assistant role. It would be a wonderful opportunity for you to learn how to navigate our world. You'd be around the right people, see how things are done. And of course we would provide a stipend. A clothing allowance, shall we say." She smiled as if bestowing a great gift. "Perhaps $1,000 a month just to help you acclimate your wardrobe. To build a more suitable image. $1,000. I thought about the $70,000 sitting in my checking account from last month. I thought about the payroll I'd approved just yesterday for 53 employees. I didn't laugh. I didn't even smile. I just looked at Tyler. He was frozen, paralyzed. His face was pale, his eyes fixed on the table. He was a statue, a perfect portrait of the golden sun trapped in his chair by the weight of his inheritance. He didn't look at me. He didn't defend me. He didn't say a word. And in that moment, all the warmth I felt for him evaporated. It wasn't anger. It was clarity. He wasn't trapped. He was complicit. I turned my gaze back to Patricia. She was watching me, waiting for the gratitude, waiting for me to be overwhelmed by her generous offer. She saw me as a charity case, a project to be molded, an unsuitable girl to be bought off with a clothing allowance that wouldn't even cover my weekly grocery bill. I finally understood. They hadn't invited me here to meet me. They'd invited me here to dismiss me. I was about to respond. I was about to say something, I'm not sure what. But Gregory scoffed, waving his hand dismissively, as if swatting away his wife's trivial charity work. He was clearly bored. "Enough, Patricia. If the girl doesn't want help, she doesn't want it." He turned his attention to his son, his tone shifting to business. "Tyler, speaking of valuations, I spent all day dealing with this absurd pinpoint dynamic situation." My blood went ice cold. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. "It's a ghost company," Gregory grumbled, swirling the wine in his glass. "No physical office, no public-facing founder. Just a data analytics firm that's beating everyone in the sector. We've been trying to acquire them for 6 months to fold into the bank's tech division." Patricia looked interested. "A ghost? How intriguing. Is it valuable?" "Extremely," Gregory snapped. "But the founder, whoever he is arrogant. New money trash. He's rejected 3 of our offers. Thinks he's smarter than us. He won't even take a meeting. Just sends back these one-line rejections." "Well," Patricia said lightly, "everyone has a price. You'll find it." "It's a nuisance," Gregory said. "This pinpoint dynamics is just a roadblock." The room was silent for a beat. All their attention was on this abstract business deal, this invisible, arrogant founder. They had already forgotten I was there. I was just the sweet girl, the project, the charity case. I picked up my water glass. I took a slow, deliberate sip. Then I set the glass down on the mahogany table. The sound, a simple, quiet click of glass on wood, cut through the silence. It was so small, yet so loud, that all three of them turned to look at me. "That's my company, Gregory." My voice was perfectly calm, quiet, clinical. Gregory stared at me. "What did you say?" "Pinpoint dynamics," I repeated, meeting his gaze. "It's my company. I'm the founder." Patricia's painted smile froze, then cracked. Her face went completely white. "And I'm the arrogant new money founder who's been rejecting your offers," I continued, my voice never rising. "I'm the ghost." Gregory's mouth opened, but nothing came out. He looked like a fish drowning on dry land. "And for the record, Gregory," I said, leaning forward just slightly, "your offers weren't just low, they were insulting. You've been trying to buy $1 billion analytics firm for pennies on the dollar." I turned my head slowly to look at Patricia, who looked like she might be sick. "You've been undervaluing my company," I said. Then I looked back at Gregory. "And you've been undervaluing me." I let that hang in the air, let them choke on the silence. "So, Patricia," I said, my voice still soft, "thank you for your very generous offer of a junior assistant role. And thank you for the $1,000 clothing allowance." I gave them a small, tight smile. "But just like your husband's acquisition offer, I'm rejecting this one too." The silence in that dining room was absolute. It was so thick you could feel the weight of it. Patricia's face was a mask of chalky white shock, her mouth slightly open. Gregory was sputtering his brain, visibly trying to reboot. He looked from me to his wife, and back again, his old money confidence completely shattered. He tried to speak. "Now, Kelsey, I think there's been a misunderstanding." "No," I said, my voice still quiet. "I don't think there has. I think for the very first time we understand each other perfectly." I folded my napkin and placed it on the table. Then I stood up. The sound of my chair scraping lightly against the antique wooden floor was deafening. "Thank you for the illuminating dinner." I turned to leave. I was halfway to the door when I heard another sound. The sound of another chair scraping back. I stopped and turned. Tyler was standing. His face was pale, but his eyes were clear. The fog of the golden sun, the paralysis, it was gone. He looked at his parents, and the man I'd met in the gallery, the passionate, strong man I loved, was finally there. "You weren't testing her," he said, his voice low and shaking, not with fear, but with a lifetime of suppressed rage. "You were testing me. Tyler, darling, sit down." Patricia started, her voice a high-pitched, desperate whisper. "No," he said, taking a step away from the table. "I'm done. My whole life has been one long test. The right schools, the right friends, the right job. I knew what this was." He looked at me, his eyes filled with a terrible, beautiful clarity. This was the final exam, wasn't it? To see if I'd choose the right partner. He looked back at his parents. "And you failed." Gregory stood up, his face turning purple. "You will not speak to your mother that way, young man." "I will," Tyler said. He walked over to me, never taking his eyes off his parents. He took my hand. His was warm, steady. "I'm leaving. And I'm not coming back." He didn't wait for a reply. He just held my hand and walked with me out of that dining room, through the cold hallway, and out the front door, closing it quietly behind us. We left them there in their silent, perfect house, finally realizing they had just tried to buy out the one woman their entire firm was desperate to acquire. We didn't talk in the cab. We just held hands. We got back to my tiny apartment in Somerville. The contrast was almost funny. We'd left a world of antique silver and ancestral portraits, and now we were in my living room with its secondhand couch and posters taped to the wall. I went to the fridge and grabbed 2 cheap beers. I handed one to Tyler. He looked at the bottle, then at me, and he started to laugh. It wasn't a small laugh. It was a deep belly laugh, the sound of a pressure valve finally releasing after 32 years. "I can't believe I did that," he said, wiping a tear from his eye. "I'm proud of you," I said softly. He looked at me, his smile fading into something real and vulnerable. You're incredible, Kelsey. I'm so sorry." I froze. I've never known how to." "I know," I said. "But you stood up when it counted." He took a drink of his beer. "So, What happens now? Is Gregory really going to lose the deal? I sat on the balcony looking out over the city lights. I don't know. Are you going to sell to one of his competitors? He asked. I thought about it for a minute. I thought about the power I held. I thought about the money, the leverage, the win, and I realized I didn't care about any of it. No, I said, turning to him. I'm not going to sell Pinpoint at all. I'm going to use that leverage for something else. What? I'm going to start a new foundation, I said, the idea forming as I spoke. I'm going to call it the Unconventional Artist Fund. I'll provide grants to artists from non-traditional backgrounds. Artists who are passionate and brilliant but don't have the right pedigree to get into the big galleries. Tyler stared at me, his eyes wide. Artists like you, Tyler, I said. Because real pedigree isn't about the family you're born into. It's about the legacy you choose to build. He didn't say anything. He just stood up, crossed the small balcony and kissed me. And I knew in that moment, we had just built our own.